Hey guys, welcome to another video from Historic Militaria. Today I wanted to take a look at a round from World War II that is kind of one of the more interesting evolutionary dead ends, and that is the 55 Boys anti-tank rifle. Now, this was a British round that was used, actually developed at least, in the mid to late 1930s, and then was fielded in about 1937 in exclusively the Boys anti-tank rifle, which was 55 Boys, or in metric designation would be a 13.9 by 99. So if you consider that your 50 caliber, and this is a 50 caliber right here, your standard 50 caliber Browning BMG, which is in metric terms a 13.2 by 99. That's basically one of the starting cartridges that the Boys was based on. And then the Boys was just necked up to 55 caliber, so 13.9. Same case length, but because you lost a lot of the shoulder, it actually had headspace on a rim. So that's why your Boys is a rimmed round, whereas your standard 50 caliber BMG is not. The Boys also was developed from the 13.2 Hotchkiss round, which is right here, and that's a 13.2 by 99 as well. And that was a French round developed in the mid to late 1920s, and then fielded by the French and then by the Japanese as well during World War II quite extensively. This is actually a Japanese World War II round. You can tell by the lack of a head stamp on them. So just to give you an idea of kind of the parent casings, you've got your 50 caliber and your 13.2 by 99 Hotchkiss. So this is the standard loading of the Boys, which would be the armor piercing. There were also, I believe, a tracer and a practice round at least. And there were two major variations of the Boys round, a Mark I and a Mark II. The Mark I, which is what you're looking at here, was obviously the first version, and it was a 926 grain bullet that was with a steel core going at about 2450 feet per second, so definitely quite a clip. The second variation of this, the Mark II, actually improved some of the ballistics to get it up to about 2,900 feet per second, maybe a little bit more than that, but still wasn't enough to deal with really even the tanks that the British encountered beyond, say, 1940. Once German tanks especially started getting more armor, the Boys was pretty much, like most all anti-tank rifles, was pretty much worthless. The Soviets obviously had some of the best anti-tank rifles. The US never adopted one. The Germans had a couple, and really by about 1942, they were all pretty much obsolete and been, off to other uses. The British invented the Piat, which was the projector infantry anti-tank, I believe, which was kind of this horrendous Dr. Seuss inspired spring contraption that fired a shape charge with a really big spring, and it looks like something out of a Rube Goldberg cartoon. But the interesting thing about this particular clip of Boys is these are on one of the stripper clips, which is how they were packed, and then they would be loaded into the rifle magazine, which was a 5-round magazine, and then the rifle is a bolt action gun with a 5-round magazine, so obviously your standard bolt action. And just for perspective, this is a stripper clip of 8mm Mauser from World War II, so obviously quite a difference in size there. The Boys is a pretty beefy round, and was actually fairly useful in reports from especially early World War II by British soldiers for punching holes in concrete and kind of harassing pillboxes and whatnot. It could actually penetrate 10 inches of sandbag, so against light targets, maybe a half track or something like that, it wasn't a bad idea, but really you got about the same penetration out of your 50 caliber, and the 50 caliber, of course, was used in the Browning machine gun and was much more common, and while not exactly man-portable, it was a little more, you had more loadings, you had more rate of fire, it was just a better all-around firearm. But the boys quickly kind of disappeared and fizzled out after 1941, 42. You didn't see it much. I'm not saying it wasn't issued, but it certainly wasn't frontline service. One interesting side note is that in, I believe, 1965, the IRA actually took out an engine of a British not a battleship, but just a British ship in harbor in England with a boy's anti-tank rifle with a couple of good shots. So it did pop up from here and there. A lot of boys have come over to the United States and been rebarreled into 50 caliber Browning, mostly because of commonality of ammunition. The 50 caliber boys, or 55 boys, is fairly uncommon and a fairly expensive round to fire, whereas 50 caliber is pretty much easy to find. But also a big deal is the 55 caliber in America is actually a destructive device. Anything over 50 caliber generally is going to be an NFA item, and you're going to have to go through all the rigmarole of having that as a destructive device, whereas a 50 caliber rifle in most states is perfectly legal to own and transfer and not a big deal, nothing more than a regular firearm. So a lot of them are coming over to the States, and they have been rebarreled. There are certainly ones still floating around as registered NFA destructive devices, but the ammunition is getting fairly scarce. It used to be pretty common, but not so much anymore. The head stamps on these are going to be pretty much the same. You're going to have your year of manufacture and then your Mark 1 or Mark 2. This is a K39 and then a 1 variant. So that's a Mark 1 round, and the K and 39, the K stands for Kynoch, and the 39 would be 1939. And one last thing, when you're spelling the boy's rifle, it's B-O-Y-S, not B-O-Y-E-S. There's no extra E in there. I know we all like to do it because we think it sounds more British, but it's just boys. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at a rather unusual round from World War II. As always, remember to like and subscribe, and we'll be back with more interesting stuff soon. Thanks for watching.